Welcome to Sonto YouTube Stories. Hello and welcome back to Sonto YouTube Stories. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today. If you're passionate about culture, society, and the changing perspectives on success, this episode is just for you. We're diving into culture and society, exploring how cultural expectations shape the transition from adolescence to adulthood. With global conversations happening around stereotypes, success, and the expectations placed on young people, it's time to talk about how today's teenagers are redefining what it means to be an adult. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in: culture and society, redefining success and breaking stereotypes. In every corner of the world, teenagers are navigating a complex web of societal expectations and cultural norms that define how they should grow into adulthood. But what if these traditional paths to adulthood are no longer relevant to today's youth? What if today's teenagers are redefining success in ways that challenge old stereotypes and make room for more diverse stories? Let's take a look at two young people, Lila from Kenya and Carlos from Brazil, each navigating societal pressures and striving to build their own paths to adulthood. Lila's journey to break free from cultural norms. Lila, an 18-year-old living in Nairobi, has always been passionate about photography and art. Growing up in a society where academic success is seen as the ultimate pathway to respectability, Lila was always told that she needed to pursue a career in medicine or engineering to be seen as successful. Her family expected her to follow in the footsteps of other relatives and join the ranks of professionals who would bring honor and financial stability. But Lila had a different vision for her future. "I was expected to follow the traditional path, but I couldn't ignore my love for art," Lila said. "It felt like I was living someone else's life." Lila decided to take a bold step and pursue photography professionally, against the wishes of her family. She started by building an online portfolio and sharing her work on social media platforms. Over time, Lila gained recognition for her unique style and approach to capturing the beauty of everyday life in Nairobi. Despite the initial resistance from her family and community, Lila proved that success didn't have to fit a predefined mold. "I realized that success isn't about pleasing others, it's about staying true to yourself and following your passion," Lila reflected. "It's about creating your own path." Lila's story is an inspiring example of how today's youth are challenging societal norms and defining their own version of success, even when it goes against what's expected of them. Carlos' fight to redefine masculinity in Brazil. On the other side of the world, Carlos, a 17-year-old from Sao Paulo, is also grappling with cultural expectations, specifically around what it means to be a real man in Brazil. Raised in a society where traditional masculinity often means being emotionally distant, tough, and physically strong, Carlos felt the weight of these expectations from a young age. "I always thought that I had to suppress my emotions and act like a tough guy," Carlos shared. "But that didn't feel authentic to who I was." Carlos was a sensitive, introspective teenager who loved writing poetry and performing spoken word. But expressing his emotions and creativity in this way wasn't seen as manly by many of his peers. He often faced ridicule for not conforming to traditional ideals of masculinity. But rather than conforming, Carlos used his platform to challenge the stereotypes around masculinity. He started sharing his poetry on social media, using hashtags like #redefiningmasculinity and #realmencry. Through his vulnerability, Carlos found a community of like-minded individuals who also felt trapped by society's rigid expectations of masculinity. "I realized that being a man doesn't mean being unemotional or hiding who you are," Carlos explained. "It means embracing all sides of yourself, strength and vulnerability." Carlos' story is a powerful reminder that cultural norms around gender and identity can be limiting. Today's teens are not afraid to challenge these traditional views and forge new definitions of masculinity and identity, one that celebrates authenticity and emotional expression. The global impact of redefining success. Lila and Carlos are just two examples of how today's teenagers are reshaping the cultural narrative about what it means to be an adult. Around the world, young people are rejecting the idea that success has to be one size fits all. Whether it's through career choices, gender identity, or how we view family and relationships, teens are creating more inclusive, diverse definitions of adulthood that reflect their unique experiences. This is particularly important in the context of globalization and the internet age, where cultural exchanges happen instantly and seamlessly. Teens today have access to global perspectives and are influenced by a variety of cultures, which allows them to break free from the confines of local traditions. While respecting cultural roots is important, young people are increasingly finding ways to forge their own identity and choose paths that align with their individual passions and values. For example, teens in countries like India and Nigeria are beginning to push back against societal pressures to follow strictly defined career paths and are opting for creative and entrepreneurial pursuits. In many Western countries, there's a growing trend of non-traditional career paths, such as influencers, content creators, and activists, being celebrated as equally valid forms of success as traditional professions. This shift in thinking is not just about rejecting old norms, it's about creating new possibilities for future generations to thrive in ways that align with their passions, their identity, and their personal experiences. Thank you for watching. And that brings us to the end of today's episode on culture and society, a deep dive into how teens are breaking free from societal expectations and redefining what success means to them. Lila and Carlos have shown us that the journey to adulthood is not about following someone else's script, it's about embracing who you are and creating your own story. Whether you're challenging gender norms, pursuing a career in the arts, or forging a path outside of tradition, today's teens are changing the way we think about adulthood. Thank you so much for joining us today on Sonto YouTube Stories. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on our stories. We'd love to hear from you. How are you challenging societal expectations and creating your own definition of success? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to stay tuned for more inspiring content.